Hello, good morning, everyone. I guess it's early morning for our friends in America and maybe late in the evening for our friends in Asia. I'm Valery. I'm the Executive Director for the French Nuclear Society, and I'm really honored to open this session this morning. We are opening the Index Conference, which is the International Conference on Digital Transformation in Nuclear. It's our second edition. The first edition was in June 2018 in Paris, and then the second edition was postponed several times because of COVID. So in 2022, we're having this session online, and we're really happy because we have 525 participants registered from 30 different countries. So it's a very international event, and we'll hope a very interactive event. So to follow the conference, you have received information, I think this morning, an email about the mobile application that will enable you to really get easy access to the program and get access to a lot of information about the event. So this is the first session of a series of 9 sessions, and I want to thank the program committee. So you may not be able to attend one of these 9 sessions. So all the sessions will be published on our YouTube channel, so we'll be available to you on replay, but we really encourage you to attend the session live so that you can enjoy the interactivity of the application and ask all your questions. So now I'd like to introduce for the first session, Patricia BLEY will be our moderator. So Patricia works for the CS groups and is a co-chair of the Digital Commission of Nuclear Valley. So the first session is called Digital Performance, which models for an efficient IT and business collaboration. So Patricia, I'll leave you the floor.
Thank you, Valery, for that introduction. I am Patricia BLEY, and I am going to moderate this roundtable. So how is this roundtable structured? Firstly, I am going to introduce our 4 prestigious attendees. Secondly, each attendee is going to introduce his company in the context of digital performance. Thirdly, I will spend 15 minutes asking questions to our 4 attendees. And finally, there will be a 15-minute Q&A session with the audience. Each person will write their questions in the Slido and will vote for the most relevant questions. And then I will ask our guests the questions that were chosen by the audience. You can input your questions throughout the whole session. So the roundtable is about digital performance, which models for an efficient IT and business collaboration. The digital transformation in the nuclear sector is a common engagement from business and information system leaders. We'll have returns on experience from Constellation, US, EDF Framatome, France, and TVO, Finland. During the session, we will discuss from a practical point of view how major nuclear industry players have managed international alignment and collaboration between business units and IT organizations to improve industrial performance. Topics covered will include how projects are governed and structured, and what organizational changes have taken place in how the data is shared within companies and with partners. So we are very pleased to welcome, among other guests, Valery Juste, who is Senior VP in charge of Project Support and Digital Transformation for EDF New Nuclear Projects and Engineering. Jarno, who is Head of Business Architecture and Business Development at TVO. Randall Schmidt, who is Senior Manager responsible for growth and innovation at Constellation. And finally, Bertrand NEGRELLO, who is Digital Performance Director at Framatome, in charge of industrial transformation. So I will now hand over to Valery Juste, who will introduce his company in the context of digital performance. So I hand over to you, Valery Juste. It's your turn.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to try and share my screen. Should be coming up in a minute. Yes, so as Patricia said, my name is Valery and I'm working for New Nuclear Engineering. And my organization, the one I'm in charge of, both encompasses project support and digital transformation. As some of you may remember, I was also part of the 2018 index presentation, and at the time I may have showed a slide that was not very different from the one I'm showing to you. And I'd like to take you through the way we implement the vision that we shared with the rest of the team 4 years ago, and try and give you a few examples of the benefits that we obtained. So as you can see on these slides, there were 4 pillars that we wanted to develop. The first one being systems engineering. As you know, nuclear power plants are very complex systems, and systems engineering enabled us to manage that complexity, establish a breakdown of the product. Therefore, we were able to better manage the requirements, the allocation of resources, established a direct interface management system and a configuration management system, and establish sequences for delivering the design and the construction of our plants. Then our next pillar and challenge was to transition from a document-centric organization to a data-centric one. And that required implementing a PLM, a project lifecycle management software. It's the 3DX1 from Dassault that we developed and deployed. That meant we had to establish standard data formats and established a reliable way of sharing a unique set of data, which were therefore made available to all the stakeholders, and that enabled collaboration to get to a wider scale. Third was the fact that once you've got a set of data and you want to develop tools, you need to have a very detailed and unique process for performing your engineering. And for the whole EPCC cycle, EPCC standing for engineering, procurement, construction and commissioning, and also the preparation of generation with the power plant. And finally, through those consistent data formats and the ability to cooperate across the industry, we realized that our process had to extend beyond the borders of our organization. And this is why we adopted an industry-wide approach, thanks to the support of Sfen. Sfen is the trade association for the French nuclear industry. And in essence, we were able to support digital transformation across the nuclear industry, both in France and internationally, and establish joint cooperation in the development of data norms and standards. So basically that set us on a path to delivering a digital twin of the asset. And just to give you an order of magnitude, the amount of data associated to a power plant is massive. It's about 50 million items of data for one power plant. So where are we today? I'm just going to share a few examples with you. One being for the Hinkley Point C nuclear power plant, the one that the EDF Group is developing in Somerset in the UK. It's currently at the construction set, and we were able to develop a unique portal to access the technical information made available to all the stakeholders. And in essence, that means that over 1,800 users can access that data using it, for instance, for the end-to-end management of commissioning, from the commissioning strategy developed by design up to their actual implementation on the plant. And that means managing almost 40 million items of data for an EPR. Looking on the future, we've also developed last summer the PLM, the Project Lifecycle Management Software, 3DX that I was referring to earlier. And we put it online last summer, which enables us to manage that digital twin for the EPR2 fleet that we're going to develop in France in the coming years. It's been deployed for almost 1,000 users today and currently manages some 50 million items of data for the current status of the design. And we believe that once we're at the overall cruise level will be managing some 500 million items of data. And the developments that were achieved for those projects also needed transverse developments, amongst which development for managing the qualification of nuclear pressure equipment, which is a digital platform that was launched and shared across the industry. Almost 19 manufacturers are involved and 4 notified bodies. We also established manufacturing surveillance digital tools that again had to be deployed amongst hundreds of users, and which currently support about 2/3 of our manufacturing surveillance processes. And one final example is the technical requirements. As you know, in order to build a nuclear power plant, you need to outsource the construction, some of the construction and manufacturing of the equipment. And those technical requirements are now, for most of them, established in digital form. They're leaner, more consistent, and directly shareable with the supply chain. And once again, that has been massively deployed within EDF projects. So the conclusion of that journey is that it took us here to establish, in combination with all stakeholders and not just IT, that roadmap and start reaping the benefits of that vision. That is a cooperative process. And not only did it benefit EDF as an operator, but the benefits extended to the entire French nuclear industry and is going to yield some significant benefits in terms of performance. That's for me.
Thank you, Valery. Just, I hand over to you, Jarno, Sarin, for your presentation.
Thank you, Patricia. Hello, everybody. My name is Jarno, Sarin, and I work for TVO. And how have we improved collaboration between IT and business? Well, I go a little bit deeper first to what digital performance and digital transformation means. First things that come to my head are data and analytics, as well as lean workflows, automation, and software robotics. But the most valuable resource in our organization, both in IT and business units, are people. And when we speak of digital performance, digital transformation, and people in the same sentence, we need to focus on how the people adapt new ways to work. To implement new ways to do work, people need to be ready for digital transformation. So in context, human factor comes out strongly. And it will come also in models of collaboration. I bring up 2 different models, which are both non-digital, pure people models, which we use to enhance collaboration between IT and business units in Teollisuuden, Voima, TVO. We have built up a group called E6, which consists of people across over the organization, people with different backgrounds and tasks. Some of the people are IT oriented or even work in IT division. On the other hand, some work on business units and some in business development. What is common to these people is that they are all open-minded. They are willing to make change in work life, and they like to make experiments on how work could be made easier way. This group is linked between IT and business. This group gathers, raising up issues from the organization and study on them both in IT and business perspective. Study results is guide how business can take advantage of digital solutions on issues. And the other model that came up to my head is about business architecture and the role. Business architecture focuses on data, technologies, applications, processes, strategy, and resources. With combining those viewpoints, we have a clear vision how company works, And when we make changes in our processes in business units, we view what kind of possibilities comes up with digital performance. It is built up to this role to speak both in IT and business. This role understands how business units work and what business units need and how IT can serve business units. Those are the two most valuable ways or models how IT and business collaborate in our company. Thank you.
Thank you, Jarno, for this presentation. I repeat to all the audience, do not hesitate to input your questions in the Slido during the presentations. So I hand over to Randall Schmidt. That's your turn.
Very good, thank you. Hi, I'm Randy Schmidt. I lead the innovation and growth team here at Constellation. Constellation is a new company that we spun off from Exelon. You may know the Exelon name better. And we have the generation and electricity sales and trading business units. We've got 21 reactors at 12 sites. And we created an innovation department 9 years ago and expanded it greatly about 6 years ago when I joined the team, as well as 12 others. And I think we're fairly mature in our processes and oversight now, and we've got experience in many, many facets of innovation in nuclear. We created a vision for our team that reads a pervasive innovation culture that drives Constellation growth and value. So we really do focus on both those things now, since we're a new company to grow, as well as to provide value to our employees and our stockholders. And we've worked very closely with IT from the beginning. There's a dedicated team from IT of about 18 people that work with us. And we have worked and developed a digital transformation strategy with that group, and that guides our efforts. I actually spoke to an earlier version of our digital transformation strategy at the 2018 Index Conference in Paris. And we've evolved it quite a bit since then and refined our vision within that strategy down toward 8 main areas. We look to automate work processes as much as possible, to remove humans from the mundane work and let them work on more strategic processes and strategic work. And we've also worked to make as many of those processes smart as we can. For example, we developed an electronic smart procedure solution that we call dynamic procedures. We're also looking to help make decisions at the right level through analytics and artificial intelligence. Giving field workers access to the information they need is very key. And we do that in a number of ways, including working through new training methods to give them the training that they need, ideally in the field and just in time, so that they can have more wrench time and spend less time in the classroom. We also work very hard to provide predictive plant performance information through monitoring in different ways and giving that information back to the right people so that we can avoid transients and trips of our nuclear plants. And to do all of that, we need a strong information backbone. So we've been working very closely with IT to develop that appropriate strategy to implement that information backbone across the new company. And of course, throughout everything, we need an innovative culture. So we continue to focus on innovation education and leveraging the great ideas that the fleet brings to us. As I mentioned, we have a dedicated group of IT professionals working with us. They help support the proof of concepts, the pilots, as well as they have a DevOps team that supports our implemented solutions. And it's evolved over the years, and they are our interface with the rest of IT, and it's worked very well for us to have that dedicated team that then can work with the business side as well as the other IT departments throughout the company. We also work together to develop an enterprise information strategy for nuclear that is very effective at helping our vendors, our business side, and our folks in IT to focus toward the same strategy, toward the same end goal, so we don't end up with one-offs for our different solutions. And then we're also closely aligned with our functional area managers, maintenance, operations, and so forth throughout the fleet, as well as our plant manager council, so that we're all driving toward the same things. We're all accountable for the value capture of the various innovation solutions. We have a steering committee that aligns all of that work toward this vision that I just described. So we'll continue to work together to refine that over time. And we provide the right tracking dashboards so that everyone can see what we're doing and share that information across the fleet. Thank you. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Randall Schmidt, for your presentation. And finally, Bertrand NEGRELLO, it's your turn. Your mic is off, I think.
Now it's better. Do you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
very much. So I'm glad to present you the Framatome company and the way we manage digital transformation. And in fact, it's all about organization, and we changed the organization a few years ago. On the left side, you have the, let's say, traditional organization that was in place. Regarding digital transformations, some developments were made for the BUs, but the value was not clear and the transformation was not obvious. So we did a regs and asked us why do we have this situation? And we understood that our IT was technical oriented and did not have the right knowledge or background to understand the processes of the BUs. So we moved toward the right figure here, and we created a team that is called Digital Performance. I will describe more what is the content after. And we rename the overall ISIT department DPIT, Digital Performance and IT. The goal was to instillate a culture of performance in digital transformation and also in the DPIT team itself. So we moved to this organization, and the team Digital Performance, then what we can say is that all members, it's about 10 people overall, with including some data scientists. And their background is a lean and operational excellence transformation. This background helped to understand the BU's processes, to push for adaptation or simplification. So some members of this team came from other industries like aerospace or automotive. And personally, I worked as well in our aerospace and even aluminum industry. And since 2011 in the nuclear business for Framatome. And my previous position was the quality VP during 5 years. So why I'm mentioning that? Because then it helps me to understand the safety constraints of this business and also all the potentialities of transformation. I give you an example, a document that is the end of manufacturing reports that is associated to one of our big components, like a steam generator. It's about 30,000 pages. So you easily understand the potential that we have to digitalize all these documents and to operate a very efficient transformation. So the role of this digital performance team is to ensure the value of the projects they lead and to ensure the quality, delivery, and cost of those projects. Now, the goal we have is to target key processes, core processes of the businesses to maximize the value and the impact, and horizontally to develop some scalable solutions. Regarding the business, they collaborate with this team, and also they have to handle these process improvements. The digital performance then could act as a coach for that. So the methods for this, let's say, transformation prior to the digitalization is a lean VSM simplification. I would add that if you try to digitalize something that doesn't work, a process that is not efficient, you will not have any benefit at the end, and the acceptance will be low. And then the business also has to conduct the change management, including training and communication, and also involve the users as early as possible into the transformation. This is to facilitate the acceptance. And finally, the third stakeholder, the IT team. For sure, they ensure all things regarding cyber, and also they provide the solution either internally by some internal means. We have a digital factory with 30 people being able to develop some solutions, or buying externally. And now I would like to give you examples of some transformations that we operate since a couple of years. So we usually divide the scope in 4 blocks: the large enterprise applications like PLMs, MES, and so on. The digital performance transformations, the ones that I just described. We also optimize the existing IT with saving time on those applications. And also we have some organization to develop some solutions for customer. So for the digital performance, I can mention a few elements, few examples. A digital site work package is to manage the documentation all along the life cycle of a project. Supplier portal extended enterprise, so it's really a collaborative mode between suppliers and Framatome. And to date, there is more than 100 suppliers working day to day into this system. Predictive maintenance as well, as we are really an industry that produces parts and big components. The machines are quite important, and we implement a system to monitor those equipments and then being able to perform predictive maintenance. We use massively AI for quality improvements of processes, and we are developing a data lake and a system of data governance to be able to extract data and analyze those data for data scientists, and also making automatic reports and so on. Regarding customers, we developed some solutions as well. One of our strength is cyber security with our company FoxGuard. We also provide systems for asset monitoring and management, some training using AR or VR, securized remote inspection, and so on.
Thank you very much, Bertrand NEGRELLO. Thank you all for your 4 presentations. And now I have a few questions for you. I will start with Valery Juste. My first question is about change management. Change management includes the human aspects, which means accompanying people towards new objectives and habits. How did you proceed, and what is your feedback?
Well, as you said, in such transformations, change management is key. And I have to admit that at the beginning, we very much envisioned change management as being a series of trainings that had to be suitable for the people in charge or people concerned by the changes. And our perception of that rapidly transformed and scaled up into a more comprehensive approach. First of all, we realized that if we wanted to go farther, we needed to embark all the stakeholders earlier on in the process. So that means we increased the overall involvement of all the key people in the technical part of the organization together with the key IT people. We also identified the need to streamline the processes. I believe it was Bertrand said earlier that it's no use digitizing a lousy process, and that very much makes a lot of sense. So we mobilized intensively all the lean and operational performance experts in our team in order to make sure that we streamline the processes together with the key technical people in order to have something that was worth digitizing. So in essence, the key to us was to go beyond training and increase the level of association and to establish partnerships in transformation, focusing on streamlining the processes before we digitize them, whilst taking also into account the capabilities of the software. And that also meant we had to make sure that our key people knew about what IT was making possible, as well as knowing what those people expected from IT. And it's the balance that delivered the right level of transformation.
Okay, that's clear. And my second question is about skills, how to mobilize the right resources and skills, and how to optimize the attractiveness of our industry, and what are the key success factors for that?
Is that for me as well?
Yeah, it's for you.
Well, the attractiveness of the industry, I mean, we're talking about performance overall. As we said, complexity is very much part of this industry, as it is of many others. And nuclear had to catch up with some practices that both created performance and well, made it an attractive industry for newcomers. And as you may know, the perspective of the new nuclear in France, as well as life extension of the existing fleet, are significant. And that means we will need both to deliver performance and also attract newcomers, new generations. And obviously, both the need for managing complexity, delivering performance, and therefore adopting newer technologies and methods basically yields all benefits at once. And having the right IT tools, the more modern approaches, delivering systems engineering with a data-oriented focus means there's more of an appeal to the new generation. So we're both delivering all at once through that comprehensive process. And as we said earlier about change management, embarking younger engineers and scientists into defining the solutions that we're delivering, embarks them and adds all their new ideas into the bargain. So it's a win-win thing, if I may say.
Okay, and I have a last questions for you, Valery. Just it's within the framework of extended enterprise, how has the collaboration between business units and IT department progressed?
Well, obviously we had to develop a mechanism through which we would organize collaboration. And we adopted an agile framework, that is to say, which we call SAFE, the scaled agile framework, which enables a coordinated involvement of all the stakeholders delivering a transformational IT. More simply put, what we had to do is establish roles and responsibilities and make sure that we left the old-fashioned V-cycle that most of us knew about from years past. That is to say, you define your needs, then you transfer those to IT, they work on them, and then they come back to you a few months later, and then you see whether you've satisfied those needs or not. And if not, then back to square one, and transitioned into a more agile and a more cooperative way of working, which means all the teams meet on a weekly basis and establish jointly the right target for the coming period and make sure that it stays on track, both in terms of schedule, but also in terms of addressing the functional needs. And that proved very successful. And once we'd established that and started delivering on a common data model, we realized that we had to go beyond the borders of the organization. And I'll give you one very practical example. On the Hinkley C project, the Hinkley Point C project, which is the United Kingdom one that I was referring to earlier. We decided that we wanted to go faster into including all the 3D model modifications made by the supply chain. And in order to increase both the delivery speed and the accuracy of the model, we enabled all the relevant stakeholders to access our information system. So that meant establishing the infrastructure to enable it, make sure that this was done safely in terms of cybersecurity, containment of information. Not all supply chain partners need to see what the others are doing in the 3D model, and at the same time making certain that we're able to deliver the right 3D model that the plant construction teams needed earlier in the process. And we were quite successful from that perspective. So that's one very practical example of how a comprehensive approach based on agility translates into a more cooperative approach throughout the supply chain.
Thank you, Valery. Just Jarno, Sarin, I have 2 questions for you. The first one is on the subject of digital transformation. How can we adapt new digital solutions in an efficient way?
Well, we need to go the roots to people and culture. This is about change management. This is actually what we do in the E6 group. We help persons in their problems and bring solutions in digital way. First little step is to help person in their daily work, like changing some manual work to digital with automation or robotics. With small successful change in work, we create and force new mindset to all over the organization. Still, we need to remember that this is not enough. While we make organization ready for change, the need of change needs to come from the top. This means everybody is involved in change. But after these small steps, the organization is more open and adaptive to bigger changes.
Okay, and within your own organization, how are digital transformation projects managed, and how are the make or buy decisions made?
We manage development project portfolio. To get the project to the portfolio, we need to make the decision whether we continue. Suggestions come from the organization to project or not. And the decision is based on if the suggestion is significant or not, and is it easy to execute or not. If the suggestion is easy to execute and very significant, we will start the project. But if the suggestion is very significant but hard to execute, we try to divide it to smaller pieces or projects. When we have made the decision to start up the project, it will be added to development project portfolio. For successful project management, we will support our project manager with steering groups which consist of people across organization. Also, this E6 group can be used as a base or support in project management. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Jarno, Sarin. Randall, Schmidt, can you tell us about the return on investment from the digital transformation? In which business areas has it been a success? And on the other hand, where should digital transformation progress?
Yes, great question. So we've driven value from all functional areas now over the last 6 years since we've been focused on this. We leverage our digital transformation strategy to guide our efforts, and we develop very strong business cases as we progress through an idea through the innovation lifecycle. So we've seen some very good process transformation work in areas like training and performance improvement, RP, security. a lot of very inefficient processes there. So we've driven tens of millions of dollars of hard savings from those areas. We use those to sort of refine our abilities in the innovation team initially, and now we've more recently targeted operations and maintenance, and we found some great efficiencies there as well through things like our dynamic procedures platform, as well as our Nexus dashboard, to share information more easily across the fleet, taking a lot of the mundane work out of people's days. And we drive both the hard value with things like reducing our reliance on contractors, as well as focusing on operational efficiencies. So if we can give people back 15 minutes or 30 minutes in a particular process, it allows them to work on more strategic work instead of that wasted time. And that employee experience focus will help them do their jobs well and go home feeling fulfilled, but it also helps with retention and attraction. So there's some soft savings and some hard savings, but we always focus on evaluating and monitoring that business case throughout the process.
Okay. In 1 minute, could you give us your top 3 pieces of advice for a successful digital transformation according to your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Work with your stakeholders and really understand their needs. Then work on the projects that they own and drive, because they need to stay aligned from the beginning. And I suspect you would see the same things that we have, that you're going to end up lacking the resources you need for full change management. It gets difficult. Plan for that right from the beginning, right when you start the project. Think about how you're going to implement it and plan for that. And then over communicate. Make sure everyone knows what you're doing and why, so that they can get engaged and stay with it and help you with the project overall, and then be responsive to the feedback from your users so that they stay engaged with the project.
Okay, thank you. Bertrand NEGRELLO, Framatome has adapted the organization of the IS/IT department to conduct more digital transformations. What are the real impacts and success factors?
Thank you. In fact, there are 2 ways to measure the impact. First of all is to measure how many active users are in the system. I gave the example of our supplier portal extended enterprise, and we monitor daily the number of suppliers that are active in the system. So it's a way to ensure that there is a real impact of this solution. Secondly, the impact is also the savings we have generated. So I mentioned a lot this performance aspect, the savings. We need to ensure an ROI, return on investment, of each project. And then at the end, we compare if the saving has been achieved compared to the initial projection. So this is to make sure at the end it will benefit for all. To get major impact, another success factor is how we are able to simplify the life of the people. For me, it's probably the main important thing to achieve in a digital transformation is to simplify the life of the people. So using ergonomics, easiness to use, intuitive screens and solutions. No need to have a thick manual on your table to be able to use this application. Another way is to measure the number of, let's say, to reduce the number of clicks that somebody has to do before achieving a task. If, for example, to do a task, you need to have 10 clicks, you lose the users. So it's really what we don't want. And the last success factor is also to fix basic IT issues, network, laptops, and so on. If you don't do that, people will not be satisfied at the end, even if you deliver to them a wonderful application.
Very interesting. And according to you, how could digital transformation be implemented in a few months rather than several years?
So you're right, speed is key. And I would say it is better to deliver 60% of, let's say, some requirements than in 6 months than 100% in 1 or 2 years. So speed is very key. The more benefit you have rapidly, and the better it will be. So having defined a planning at the start, you could also arbitrate inside the project to have the main value and keep the cost and schedule under control. So this is possible in Framatome because we use agile developments, and teams are able to decide together, IT and business and digital performance, what are the features that have the more value and that we will keep in the product at the end. So really, it's by doing this, we are able to keep very, let's say, ambitious targets. But first, we need to set ambitious targets. Do it in 6 months, and do not give targets like 2 or 3 years since at the beginning of the project.
Thank you very much, Bertrand NEGRELLO. Thank you all for those explanations and clarifications. Now it's time for Q&A session, and I have a first questions for Randall. In which field did you feel IA has brought the most value?
What has brought the most value? I'm sorry, I broke up a little.
I think there is yeah.
Maybe read it again, please. I'm sorry, I just broke up a little.
In which field did you feel artificial intelligence has brought the most value?
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of value recently in the work control process. We have a number of people involved throughout, from writing an incident report through creating a work order to getting work done. And we've put a lot of focus now in automating that through artificial intelligence. That, I believe, will ultimately save us north of $10 million a year in saving outside vendor costs, as well as reapplying our people to other solutions. So that'll be a big focus for us. We've also applied some analytics in the training space to help us evaluate how our licensed training candidates are doing throughout the 1.5 year long process, and avoid some of those failures that end up costing us money. So those are the 2 main focuses for us.
Okay. There is a question, I think this is for Valery just. How far do you engage with startup to accelerate your digital transformation? What is your build by partner model?
Well, we are very much aware of what startups do, and often even EDF entities create spin-offs that turn into startups. So benchmark is pretty much part of the landscape that enables to identify how we can leverage transformation into performance. When it gets to full-scale implementation, then we have to have partners that are robust enough. So it depends on the situation and the potential for the work to be done with the startup. But there's a few examples, especially for monitoring, equipment monitoring, where we were able to develop very successful partnerships with startups. Yes.
Okay. There is another question for you. It's thinking back to 2018, what went differently than anticipated? Things that went smoother, things that ended up being more difficult, surprises, etc.
Well, that's an excellent question. Thank you, Valery, for that one. In essence, if you look at things from afar, we're basically delivering the transformation that we described 4 years ago, but the journey has been fairly different from the one we had envisioned. Originally, it was very much an IT-driven transformation, feeling that using the right tools and methods would enable us to transform and to deliver more performance. And in a sense, it was true, but it also led to a much deeper transformation. So first answer is that we probably underestimated the depth of the transformation that we would be undergoing. One example being the design processes. We had to be more detailed and more standard and more in depth in terms of their standardization, description, implementation, so that they would drive performance across the organization and beyond. Is one example. I also talked about systems engineering and how it enabled us to control and master complexity through a more detailed description of the products. That is to say, we had to identify which parts of the plant could be standardized, transform that into catalogs that could be reused for valves, for instance, therefore drive scale effects, benefits that we hadn't envisioned at the beginning, but therefore felt it was important to implement. So first is we underestimated the depth of the transformation, but we turned that into a massive opportunity. As a logical side consequence, we also had to strengthen the level of change management, as I explained earlier, and transition from a training-based change management approach to a more comprehensive change management approach. And I'd say last, but probably one of the key success factors that we had to secure was the people. When we started that transformation journey, we felt a limited number of highly skilled IT people would be a good start in terms of the people involved on the IT side. But very quickly we realized that we have to speed up and ramp up the number of IT people so that we would have the right skills internally and not just with our partners. And obviously that mobilization, it extends to the wider organization, and we had also to make sure that in engineering, in construction, and throughout the EPCC cycle that I was talking about earlier, there were the right key stakeholders, the chief transformation officers in the various counterpart organizations within EDF, so that transformation was undertaken as a whole. And in essence, that's my third lesson learned, which very much sounds like what I heard earlier from my colleagues. Peoples are of the essence. If you want to succeed in transformation, you have to address it in depth, and you have to tackle change management from the start. So that's the key things that we had to adapt on the journey, and which enabled us to deliver on the targets that we'd assigned ourselves a few years back.
Okay. There is a next question, and I would like to ask it to Jarno, Sarin. To which level in your organization digital performance arbitration is done? Is it at executive committee level?
Yeah, I would say that it's in the leadership and the middle management. So, kind of yes.
Okay, thank you. How do the digital performance deals with investment on digital capabilities, which by essence has no return on investment? For instance, new network for mobile applications. Who wants to answer to that?
I could try first. I could try first to answer. I mean, yes, digital capabilities could be envisioned as a cost because obviously you need to pay for the development of a technology or an IT system, but they are closely related to performance and speed of execution and reliability. So they can turn into an improvement of on key performance indicators in engineering. So for instance, for manufacturing surveillance, we were able to significantly reduce by 10 to 15% in some instances the delivery time to the work that was being implemented. So there's real benefits in terms of industrial performance within 2 to 3 years. So it's quite an immediate return on investment on those specific items.
Okay.
There's
the last question. Yeah, okay, it was for you, Bertrand. Go on.
Okay. So I would say that those items that you mentioned, I call them enablers. You know, you cannot operate digital transformation without these enablers, network, mobile devices, and so on. So if you understand that if you don't have them, you cannot achieve digital transformation, then you immediately reserve a budget for that, because then you are at risk. If you don't have these enablers, you are at risk, and you have the risk to not only not to reach digital transformation, but to have a company that is not working well. So it's also a matter of risk, and we really need to keep a minimum investment on those enablers.
I have a question for you, Bertrand NEGRELLO. It's about the data lake. You are required to store sensitive data. Have you set up your own data center, or are you using external storage solutions? And that will be the last question, I think.
Okay, thank you for the question, and I fully concur with this question that protection of the data is at the heart of also what we need to do. So there is behind this question the topic of sovereignty, in fact, and we need to make sure that the data and the sensitive data will not be stolen or there will not be any intrusion in our systems. So that is why we put in place a data governance in our company to be able to categorize the different data, and the ones that we accept to store on the cloud, which is the majority, in fact, because when you ask the question to the people, is it sensitive or not, everyone will say, yes, it's sensitive. So we have to have a real discrimination and put those data less sensitive in the cloud and more sensitive data in our own data center. But let's say now we have also some technologies for data protection that allow us to store more and more in the cloud. You can encrypt data from end to end, really with strong barriers that allow you to keep this sovereignty on the data. Patricia, I don't hear you.
Thank you, Bertrand. So I think we have come to the end of our roundtable. I would like to thank you, our attendees, for your presentations and the audience for listening and participating. So now we take a break, and I will now leave you with our keynote speaker. Have a nice day. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.